Hey guys, it's Sheri Vegas, and today in this resin tutorial we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and that is we're going to be testing out this resin curing machine to see if it really does cure your resin faster. So this guy has been selling like hotcakes on Amazon, and I thought it'd be really interesting to check it out. So for basically, as it says on the front, it's a resin curing machine. If this does cure resin faster, it would be very helpful for my job. But I am like a bit curious whether it actually does work, because it just seems a little bit like too good to be true. So today I'm going to be doing 3 test pieces in this machine, and then 3 pieces the exact same on the outside, and seeing if there's any difference in how it sets the resin pieces. But what I'm also going to be looking at is the quality of the pieces. So we're going to be looking at bubbles between our, like, what's the word for it when you have to, when you're testing stuff out? Control, that is the word. So we're going to be doing 3 control piece. Why are words leaving me today? So what I'm going to do is take it out, read the instructions first to make sure I know how to operate it, and then I'm going to be setting up pouring my 3 different technique pieces and putting half in here and half out as my control pieces. So let's get started. So first thing I can say is at least there is no setup. It does come fully set up and ready to be plugged in, so that makes it a lot easier. And I'm just going to give a quick flip through this instruction manual and make sure I know exactly how to work it. Alright, so straight away I have just noticed something. It is not made for Australian PowerPoints, so I'm going to have to see if I've got one of my adapters lying around so that way I can get started. I've managed to find a double adapter, but I did have to stop and go to my mum's house to go and get one because I did not have one on hand. That was from this plug to Australian. But my original plan was I was going to do some bangles to put in, but I have just realized one issue is that these molds are too high, that the bangles are not going to work. So these are quite large bangles. They are quite big compared to, say, obviously a coaster mold. But this is already like one sort of issue that I'm seeing with this resin setter, is that it's probably only going to be able to fit like smaller jewelry pieces or just coasters in at a time. It did say on the thing that you need to put them in the trays first and then pour the resin on top, because obviously if I move this out of the way, if you pour the resin first and then onto your table, and then you obviously have to like lift the mold when the resin's still wet to put it into your tray to set it on, you're going to spill resin. So it does say in the instructions to put your items on the tray, pour into there, and then pick the tray up and add it on to the resin setter. So yeah, bangles are out, well at least these like big thick bangles are out. So I'm just going to do a few test pieces, trial pieces. So what I'm going to do is I've got 2 of the same molds. I'm going to keep one out and one in, and then I've also got 2 of these same. So I'm just going to stick with coaster molds for this because obviously I'm limited on size. I'm going to do these ones with flowers in it because I want to see if it overheats the resin and changes the color of the flowers. So we're going to do a test one that's going to stay outside, sorry, our control piece that's going to stay outside, and one that's going to go in. And then I'm going to do just a normal resin coaster with colors. And I want to see if the effects change between the 2, because this will have longer for the resin to move and to set. So I want to see if that changes, and I want to see if the flowers change color in the resin or whether we get lots of bubbles, because I'm just going to stick the flowers in the center, so we're going to have clear around the outside. So that's what I'm mostly looking for on these tests. I was trying to be so careful moving this on to my resin curing machine, but then when I went to add the lid on top, what I realized is the lid has grooves in it, which you're going to see really soon, and it wouldn't sit properly. It wouldn't fully seal. You can see those grooves right there. So I realized that you can't really place much on the top tray. You can only use the bottom two. So I had to pick it up and move it. And because these were filled right up to the brim, I accidentally bumped it and ended up spilling some of the blue resin everywhere, and then had to give it a bit of a clean, and a little bit of the blue resin went into a little bit of my other tester molds. So not the easiest to do. Okay guys, so the timer just went off. It was on for I think 30 minutes at like 40 degrees, which is what it said, 40 for it. Now let's have a little look. So it's just half an hour at 40 degrees. So it's gotten thicker, but obviously not set. It's still a lot thicker than the test pieces. So let's do another lot. And we'll put it back on. So it's time to check on these again. It's been in for 40 more minutes at, I think I did 45 this time. Let's have a little look. So it looks like it's gotten to that gelling phase, which is quite like fast for this resin because it takes about 12 hours. It is starting to get a little bit firmer, but it is still clearly like not set. So I'm going to put it on again. I'm going to increase the temperature again. Looking at these guys, they are getting thicker, but they are still clearly like, I'd say these are probably like half of what those are setting wise. So let's put this lid back on. This time I'm going to do, I think I'll do 60 and 60, like 60 degrees, 60 minutes, and we'll hopefully have a set product. So it's been on for another hour at 60, so 60 at 60, and it is time to check. Oh, and it is cured. So I think, what was it? I think it was 2 and a bit hours in total. That is completely cured. I think there is a tiny bit of like warpness in this one. Let's pull it out. Alright, so that's what it looks on that side. Yeah, it isn't level bow because obviously this has flex and it's not level when you put the resin into it. I also did find, like, you can see because it's uneven, you saw all that like resin just pouring, and I didn't get the desired outcome I wanted from this because this just poured way too close to my glitter. So I'm gonna do another coat on this guy because obviously I want to seal the flowers in. Let's have a look at these. So these are still in very much gel stage, not close to being pulled out at all. Still very gooey and sticky, but you can see a bit of a difference in the pattern. I've just added the second layer onto both coasters. I'm now going to put the lid back on, but this time instead of starting off at 30 and 30, I'm just going to go straight to 60 and 60 and see if it needs any longer from there. So this piece after an hour is completely dry, but I have noticed a few things. So I feel like the heat must come up through the center of this because I have noticed that I've got a ripple. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. I think you can slightly see it, but there's like a very strong ripple, especially around this side. and I think it's gotten too much heat on that side, because I have seen this happen before when I've worked with resin, that if you pour too hot or if the resin gets too hot, it can create that like ripple effect and that puckering. And this side is right up to the edge of my coaster mold, but then this side sinks down and I've got a decent gap. And I've also noticed that I've lost all the color out of those flower petals, which can happen sometimes, but this mostly happens when the resin gets too hot. It then cooks the flowers and bleaches the color out of them. Okay guys, it's the next day and my control pieces have dried, so let's compare the control pieces versus the pieces that were in the resin drying machine. So a few things that I did notice using the machine is, one, the trays don't obviously have a lot of space in between them, so any sort of bigger molds are not an option. And even on the top tray, because the lid, the handle sinks in, you would only ever be able to put really tiny molds, because even a mold this size for a coaster was too big for the top tray. So really only the two bottom trays are usable, and for nothing bigger than a coaster width, which is sort of a downside to it. You could only really do like small jewelry pieces, but you know, obviously big bangle pieces and obviously coasters. Another thing that I did notice was that because obviously these trays are flexible, when you do put weight on them, they're going to bend in and warp a little bit in the center. And I noticed the two pieces that I did, they are not even on either side, because they haven't been left on a level surface to set. So my two pieces, my two control pieces, are on a table, it's nice and level, and they've set evenly. I have noticed with both of my pieces, I'll even show you on this one, they are slightly warped and they are not even on both sides, all because the tray will sink in slightly in the middle, because it is got that flexibility to it that, say, a tabletop surface would not have. I also noticed, as I said before, on this one, the flowers have changed color because the resin has probably gotten too hot, and on one side it has warped. What I also did notice too is when I am going to take this out, it's broken my mold on this side, because obviously on the side that is closest to the center where the majority of the heat is coming from, it has shrunk down and has created that ripple. So clearly the resin has gotten too hot too fast, and it has glued my mold to my resin piece. Now this will come off, but now this mold has been damaged all along the edge. This was the 60 by 60, so 60 degrees by 60 minutes. The first lot that I did, the first layer, and this one, I did do the 30 by 30, and then I did the 45 by 45. So maybe 60 by 60 is just too hot to set the resin too fast. So that might be my mistake, or maybe it is just something that happens because the machine does heat the resin up. Because when you do work, like I've worked with a few different resin manufacturers, and they do purposely make their resins cure at different times to give you different effects. So resin that cures really fast heats up quite a lot, which can be really good for some projects, but really bad for other projects. So it can cause, you know, if your resin cures too fast, it can cause lots of bubbles getting trapped in it. It can cause ripples into your pieces. So I'm really on the fence about this resin curing machine. I don't think it's something that I would personally use a lot. I do feel like if you're making small pieces and you're mass producing them, like say you're making tons of like dangly earrings and they're very small, then this machine would probably be quite helpful, because they're going to be light, they'll be able to fit in all the trays, and they will be able to cure in like an hour to 2 hours compared to 12 hours that it does normally take for my resin to cure outside of it. For pieces that I make, I don't think it's really that useful for me. I did end up ruining a mold in this process, and I have got a really big ridge. The colors have bleached from the flowers because, you know, if resin gets too hot, it's going to cook whatever inside it. Now in my control piece, which comes out of the mold very easily, I've still got color in my flowers. I did end up getting a little bit of blue when I spilt it, when I moved the trays over. A bit of blue from this guy. So there is bits of blue in this, which I will show you guys. But I can still see the pink in my petals. One of the petals does look really blue here because it does have blue resin over the top, but compared to this guy, I also am noticing a lot more bubbles on this side than this side because the resin was given its time to set and was able to release those bubbles. I do feel like when you are setting resin super fast, you will have more of a chance of bubbles getting trapped, as the resin is setting a lot faster than what it should be or what the manufacturer designed it to set. And especially if you are using any product that does contain oxygen, so any wood, any natural element releases bubbles as the resin goes over it because it's got oxygen trapped within the petals or the wood. So this one has set a lot clearer. It's also even. This one is not even. So overall, for putting flowers in resin, maybe if I had done less temperature and done a few batches, it might have set a bit better. So that might be my issue, but overall, my control piece is a lot nicer than my piece that was in the machine. But yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're new to my channel, please do subscribe, as I post new resin videos all the time. I post every single week, all to do with different resins, alcohol, inks, candle making. I love all the arts and crafts. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a big thumbs up, as that really helps me out. Thank you guys so much for watching.